Loneliness. The silent epidemic that rewires the brain. Loneliness has long been dismissed as a fleeting emotion, a passing sense of sadness that comes and goes with circumstance. For years, society treated it as something intangible, an invisible ache that could be soothed with distraction or ignored until it faded. But modern science is rewriting that narrative. Loneliness, researchers now reveal, is not just a feeling. It is physical. It reshapes the brain itself. The neuroscience of isolation. Recent studies have shown that prolonged social isolation can shrink gray matter in the brain. This isn't metaphorical, it is literal. Gray matter, the tissue responsible for processing information, emotions, and memories, begins to deteriorate when human beings are cut off from meaningful connection. The regions most affected are those governing memory, emotional regulation, and decision-making. In other words, the very structures that allow us to think clearly, feel deeply, and make sound choices begin to weaken in silence. The brain is built to connect, just as muscles atrophy when unused. Emotional and cognitive pathways dim when deprived of interaction. Choices feel harder, thoughts grow foggy, even joy becomes more difficult to recognize. Loneliness, then, is not simply sadness, it is structural decline. Beyond introversion, it is important to distinguish loneliness from introversion. Introverts may prefer solitude, but they still thrive on meaningful relationships and purposeful interactions. Loneliness is not about personality type, it is about disconnection. It is the absence of shared experience, the lack of emotional resonance with others. And its effects mimic aging, depression, and even neurodegenerative diseases. In fact, researchers have found parallels between the brains of chronically lonely individuals and those suffering from conditions such as Alzheimer's. The overlap is alarming. What begins as isolation can, over time, manifest as cognitive decline that mirrors some of the most feared illnesses of our age, the hidden epidemic. Ironically, loneliness has surged in a world more connected than ever. Social media promises endless networks, yet many find themselves scrolling through feeds without genuine interaction. Digital communication often replaces face-to-face connection, leaving people surrounded by noise but starved of intimacy. The COVID-19 pandemic amplified this reality. Lockdowns and distancing measures, though necessary, revealed just how fragile our social fabric can be. Millions experienced isolation not just as inconvenience, but as trauma. The long-term effects are still being studied, but early findings suggest that the pandemic accelerated awareness of loneliness as a public health crisis. Experts now describe loneliness as one of the most dangerous epidemics of our time. It contributes to higher risks of cardiovascular disease, weakened immune systems, and shortened lifespans. But perhaps most striking is its impact on the brain, the organ that defines who we are. The good news, resilience. The story, however, is not entirely bleak. The brain, remarkable in its adaptability, is resilient. The damage caused by loneliness is not always permanent. Reconnection, even in small doses, can reignite fading pathways. Meaningful conversations, shared laughter, or simple acts of kindness can stimulate neural circuits that have gone quiet. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself, offers hope. Just as isolation can weaken gray matter, interaction can strengthen it. The act of reaching out, of engaging in community, is not only emotionally rewarding, but biologically restorative. A call to action. This research is more than academic. It is a wake-up call. Loneliness is not a minor inconvenience. It is a health hazard with profound consequences. Addressing it requires more than individual effort. It demands cultural change. Workplaces, schools, and communities must prioritize connection. Policies that encourage social support, urban designs that foster interaction, and technologies that enhance rather than replace human contact are all part of the solution. On a personal level, the call is simple. Talk to someone today, not just for them, but for yourself. A phone call, a walk with a friend, or even a brief conversation with a neighbor can be enough to spark the brain's resilience. Connection is medicine, and it is available to all of us, humanity's design. At its core, this science affirms what we have always known intuitively: humans are wired for connection. Our brains are not built to thrive in isolation. They are designed to resonate with others, to share stories, to collaborate, to love. When those connections fade, so too does the architecture of the mind. But when they are restored, the brain responds with vitality. Joy becomes recognizable again. Decisions feel clearer, memories sharpen. Life regains its texture. Loneliness may be one of the most dangerous epidemics of our time, but it is also one of the most preventable. The cure lies not in medicine, but in each other. So reach out, share a moment, reignite what was fading. Because in the end, connection is not just about happiness, it is about survival. And your brain, resilient and waiting, will thank you.